Good morning. We are coming to you from Martha's Task, where we are making cell phone cases. And Mary Burns has, this is your own creative project made on your own, is it not?
Yes, it is.
Yes, so this is her personal pattern, and she's going to tell us all about it.
Well, I started trying to walk a little bit more during COVID for exercise, and I found myself going out to walk, and I wanted to take my cell phone, but I didn't have any pockets. So I walked around with my cell phone in my hand, and I kept thinking, I want a cell phone carrier of some sort. Looked on Pinterest, you would see them, but what they were for the most part a pocket that you carried. And then I saw some silicone ones, and I really like those. And this is my homemade variation on a silicone one. So my cell phone is attached by elastic to a fabric backing, goes around my neck. If I'm out walking and somebody calls, I could just answer it. I get a text, I could look at it. I do, if I was going to do that, I should have mounted my phone upside down to do that, but so you could do that. And that way you can see it, you can use it, but you don't have to dig it out of a pocket or whatever. So
Very
I came
clever.
up with this creation. To start with, to get my size, I took my cell phone and I measured my cell phone. So I had a little ruler here that I lost. So I will get one of these, but I just went and measured my cell phone in the case that I keep it in. And I ended up drawing up a pattern that for my cell phone is 3 3/4 inches wide and 6 5/8 inches long. And so that makes a nice size for my personal cell phone. Mine is a Galaxy S7 Samsung, but with it being elastic, it'll fit. It's flexible, so if your cell phone is a slightly different size, you could do that, or you can make your own pattern. So it basically is the size of my cell phone, and I added 3/4 of an inch to my measurements. So to do this, you'll need 2 pieces of fabric. Cut the 3 3/4 and the 6 5/8. And I took a piece of paper and made me a pattern because I knew I was going to be making several of them. So now I don't have to remeasure every time. And then you need a strap. My strap is 2 inches long. And I just cut 2 inches off the cross width of my fabric and do that. And it is longer than what I need. And I end up cutting off a piece, but I'm going to take my cut off pieces, and this is a piece from another strap that I made, and I'm going to sew a little swivel hook on the end, and this is going to turn into a key ring that you could go around and do that.
Very clever.
So you've got your piece of fabric, your strip of fabric is 2 inches, and it needs to be, I made my length 30 inches, and then I added a 1/2 inch for my seam allowance. So this is going to be 30 1/2 inches long by 2 inches. Or the lazy way is you just cut it off and you just make it longer, and then you've got a nice little strip of fabric to do something else with. Make it, you match a key ring or whatever. So the first thing to do is you take your long strip of fabric, and we're going to take it, go to the iron, we're going to fold it in half, lengthwise, like that. And mine's already been ironed, so you'll see it's got some folds in it. You'll do that. Then you open it out, and you fold both ends to the center. And I usually do one side, and then I go do the other side, and you iron each side down. Then you fold it in half again with the raw edges to the inside. And you end up with a strip of fabric 1/2 inch wide, folded. And then you'll go and you'll stitch along each edge. And I've already stitched this one, so you can't see it real well, but I've stitched along both edges. And that has formed the strap. now I'm going to take my fabrics. The other thing is you need to interface it. So I did an iron-on interfacing on one side, and I'm doing a medium weight. I want a kind of a sturdy backing. So this is a medium weight iron-on interfacing, and I'll just iron it on. So I have this piece that's already interfaced, and then this is the other side of it. So the next thing I'm going to do, and there was my ruler that I was looking for a few minutes ago, is I'm going to take my strap. Now again, I said I needed to be 30.5 inches long. So I'm going to stretch it out. And you can adjust the length. You can make it shorter, you can make it longer. This feels like a nice length for me. But other people may want it longer, you may want it shorter. And feel free to adjust however you want. So now I'm going to take my neck strap, and I'm going to put it on the piece that I've interfaced, which this piece is going to become my back. So I'm going to measure 1/2 inch from the side, and I'm going to put my strap, pin my strap on. Then I'm going to take the other piece, and you notice I'm being real careful. I've got to keep it straight. I don't want my strap twisted anywhere, so I'm making sure I keep it straight. I'm laying it down, measure my 1/2 inch from the other edge, and then I'm going to pin it. And then I will go and I will sew the strap in place. Just sew it down across each of the pieces of the strap. And that'll keep it in place. The next step is to do the elastic. So to figure out where I want my elastic, I'm going to fold it in half, crosswise, and I'm marking my center on both sides. Then I'm going to fold it in half lengthwise. Well, gee, my center's off. So we're going to redo this. It was obviously off, and that would make my elastic look kind of funny. So now we're going to do the other direction. And again, I'm marking my center, and this will be my center top and bottom, where before we were doing the center sides. And this is where we're going to position the elastic. So now I've got it with my centers all marked. And you know what? I'm just going to double check it just to be safe, because I did mess up the other side. So now I'm going to take my elastic. And for this one, because of the color of my fabric, I'm going to use a black elastic. It is a 1/4 inch elastic. And I don't really measure it because I go by the markings on my fabric. So I'm going to take my first piece of elastic, and I'm going to lay it across my center mark at the top and pin it. Then I'm going to take it, you'll see I got it crossing the center mark. Then I'm going to take it to the side, and again I'm crossing my center marking. And I'm just laying it flat. I'm not trying to stretch it at all. When you actually put your cell phone in it, the width of your cell phone actually takes up stretches the elastic to make it hold it better in place. And then I'm going to pin this piece of elastic, and then I'm going to cut it off. Then I'm going to start again. I'm going to start at my side, and again I got my elastic crossing the center. And I'm going to pin it down. So you can see my elastic is making an X over my center mark. And that's really important to make that edge, because then your seam will go right through where the elastic crosses.
Okay.
And so that way you get it looking nice like this.
I see.
So it's really important. In fact, I'm a little bit concerned with that. It looks a little bit off, so I'm going to repin it. And then I keep going, and I go down to the bottom, cross again, and I'll pin it, cut it off, do it again. And I don't care if my elastic sticks out over the edge of the fabric. I could go back and trim that after I sew it down. And in fact, it might be easier if you did leave a little bit going over the edge, just to be sure. Not a lot, because, you know, you don't want to waste elastic, but just, I wouldn't cut it too close to the edge. And I keep going, crossing it. And my last piece of elastic, where I'll cross it and go back to the top and complete my X there. And then I'm going to take my center pins out that I used to mark it. And of course, cut it off. And then I'm going to go and I'm going to sew around across to all four of these to hold the elastic in place.
Are you going to do hand stitch or do that on a machine?
Oh, this is definitely a machine.
Okay.
You want a machine stitch across the elastic, because it's going to be pulled on a lot, so you need something that will secure it much better. And so after I sew all of this on my sewing machine, and I don't have an example of it sewed together, but once I get it sewed together, and I've got my strap sewed on, then the next step is to actually put it together. So I'm going to fold my strap, and you might want to go ahead and pin it in the place. So you got to be sure that you don't catch it in your seams. And remember, you won't have all these other pins. It's all been sewn together. And you'll pin it. I try to pin it where the elastic is, and the corners, and I'll pin it all the way. And I'm going to sew around it, and it'll all be pinned together. And so then it's going to look like this. This I've already sewn, but I had it all pinned around the sides. And what I did was I started right here, just under the elastic, and sewed going around, across, down, over. And I did turn the corner, and I just did about 5 stitches in the back stitch to end it, because turning that corner makes your corner much neater. So then once you sew it together, the next thing to do is you'll want to trim your corners. And you always want to trim corners, trim the extra fabric out, so you get a much sharper, neater corner. So now that I've trimmed my corners, I'm going to turn it right side out. So I'm going to reach in, and I should do it. I've learned to do it without pinning my strap. So I don't do that, but if you're new at it, the first time I did, that once you'd make more of these, if you're good at making sure that you don't get your strap caught, you don't have to pin it. But I really suggest the first time, until you get used to it, that you pin your strap. So then you turn it right side out. And yes, sometimes your strap goes through your elastic, and you'll turn it right side out. Now what has happened here? Oh, that's what's wrong. My elastic is backwards. You got to be sure that you get your elastic back on the right side. It looked like my strap was all messed up, but I didn't have the elastic on the right side. It was on the back like this, so it looked like I had the elastic going over my strap, and I thought, oh no, how did I do that? And all that was I had my elastic. I just needed to flip it to the other side.
So we're getting all the troubleshooting tips in one video.
Yes. I was starting to panic a couple of minutes, but I was like, no, I tried this. I turned it right side out to be for sure it was okay. So once you get it right side out, I try to poke out my corners real good. You can use a tool, but most of the time I could do it just with, if I trimmed it good, I could do it with my fingernail. And if you start using sharp objects to poke it out, you can poke through your stitching, and then you got to restitch your corner, or you could poke a hole in your fabric. So then I have turned it. You'll see I've got my opening, and I will turn the seam back inside. I will pin this, and then I will hand sew it closed. And that's what it takes to make a cell phone holder. Really nice cell phone lanyard, I guess is really what they call them. And I can't wait to, this is going to be so convenient when I go on walks. I don't have to carry my cell phone or find some way to carry it. I don't have to worry about it falling out of a pocket, or I can even see it, you know, if you're at work and you're running to meetings and stuff like that, and you don't have a pocket to put your cell phone in, this would be really convenient for at work and other things like that. Or I'm a tour Dawson at a local landmark, and when I do my tours, I like to carry my cell phone in case there's problems. So now I got a nice way to carry my cell phone. And that is how you can make a cell phone lanyard.
Wonderful. Thank you so much, Mary.
You're welcome.